Welcome to ACX University. I'm Scott Jacoby, and today we'll follow along with first-time audiobook author Kristina Rienzi and Audible Studios director Kat Lambrix as they work through the process of casting Kristina's title Among Us and providing feedback throughout the production process. Let's jump right in by meeting our players and learning more about Kristina's book.
Hi, my name is Kat Lambrix, and I'm the director at Audible Studios. I've been here for about 10 years, and in that time, I've gotten to work with ACX a whole bunch. So today, I'm really excited to be here with our author, Kristina Rienzi, and we're going to talk about taking her book, Among Us, putting it up on ACX, getting some audition, and helping her get her audiobook made.
Hi, I'm author Kristina Rienzi. I write suspense thrillers. I'm also president of Sisters in Crime Central New Jersey. I'm really excited to be here today. I can't wait to talk to Kat about turning my book, Among Us, into an audiobook with ACX.
Kristina, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to be able to sit down with you and talk about your book, which I loved. Tell me a little bit about the book. Give me like a great synopsis of what happens in Among Us.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here as well. So Among Us is a government conspiracy thriller about a professor, conservative professor by day, who is also an alien blogger by night. And she kind of gets a hold of a top secret classified document from the government, and she goes on the run from a secret agency as a result of that.
Amazing. It sounds like so much fun, and it's such a great plot. Tell me a little bit about your characters so we can get some notes for our audition script. Let's start with Marcy. Tell me about Marcy.
Okay, so Marcy is kind of living a double life. She is a conservative professor by day, and she's an alien blogger by night. And her whole goal in life is to find evidence of aliens and to expose it. So that's Marcy. My other main character is Lou Rollins, who is a general, retired Army general, and he's sort of just paranoid about the government. He's a tough guy exterior, but really has a giant heart, and he's both Marcy's neighbor and friend. Mm-hmm. And then the third main character is Pierce Austin. He is the Extraterrestrial Security Agency special agent, and his whole job is to keep the government alien conspiracies secret. So he wants to keep all that information secret, and it's all about global security.
Okay. And Pierce is our antagonist in the book, right?
Yes, he is, yes.
Okay. Awesome. And so tell me, where are they all from? Are they all from New Jersey, or are they from different places?
Okay, so both Lou and Marcy are from New Jersey, and Pierce is from Virginia, and he lives in DC.
Okay. Great. And so that's an important note as we're thinking about what are our characters really going to sound like.
Okay.
One thing in my job with Audible Studios, I'm really lucky I get to talk to our authors all the time, which is so cool. And one of the things I always like to talk with them about is when you wrote these characters, did you hear them in your head? Were there certain voices? Were they modeled? Sometimes I know our authors will say, oh, I modeled this on such and such an actor, or this character is, this character's kind of like my mom, and we're from the Midwest, so maybe this character has a Midwestern accent. Did you do that, or no?
I don't ever pick real people because I'm always afraid that it's gonna come out that it's like this family or friend, and they're gonna like hate me forever. So I do try to obviously there's a piece of me in every character, and I think that's true for every author. So I think for Marcy, there's a lot of me in there, although I don't hear her sounding like me as much. I think of her more as like a Jersey girl who really tries to sort of control herself at work, and she's very prim and proper, but then she's kind of just totally laid back and out there. So she's got that, she lets her Jersey accent fly at night and when she's alone. Whereas Lou, I see him as sort of like I almost like the raspy voice that I'm doing it now, but really it's like that, like kind of grungy, like a angry raspy voice that sort of, not that he's angry, but he's got that thick skin, that just toughness about him. Mm-hmm. And I envisioned Pierce more as like a little highfalutin. Like he's got a little like know-it-all attitude to him, and a little bit like, I'm acting normal, but I'm really better than you. Like that kind of was in my head when I was writing him. And so those were the three sort of thoughts I had as I was going through with them.
Cool. So that's really helpful, both when you're sending your audition script out there in the notes that you're going to give on ACX for potential narrators, and also once you've chosen a narrator, these are great conversations to have with them. And all the actors we work with are always so thankful when they get these notes, like, oh, now I really know who my characters are, and I'm doing justice to my author, and I'm really bringing their vision to life. So that's something super important that we can talk about as we go through the audition script and as we listen to some auditions today.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm glad you said that, because it's hard to imagine, like you think of narrating a book and you know you're gonna have one person. At least in my head, I knew I wanted a man, mm-hmm. even though my main character is a woman, and I knew I wanted one voice. And in my head, I'm thinking, how do I get that voice to sound different? And that's the actor's where their expertise comes in,
Right.
I'm assuming. But you have to know what that should sound like to help guide them.
Absolutely. And part of what you're going to hear in our audition script is the way that our actors do change their tone, their pacing. Sometimes, they'll do a bit of an accent if it calls for it with a character. So we'll get to go through a lot of that. But for them to have that from the beginning is so helpful. And one of the things I love about Audible Studios is that I get connected directly to my author, and that's one of the great things about ACX as well, is that as a producer, our actors are directly connected to the author. So you can give them all of that information, and then they can just run with it. It's a great relationship to have, and we find that even authors who are coming from ACX over to us or vice versa, we really rely on those relationships to make all of this creativity come to life and kind of come off the page into somebody's ears. So let's talk about, once you've got that up on your title profile page, how do you pick an audition script? So the most important thing for me when I'm casting a book is to think about who's my main character and what are they going to sound like. Is it written first person? Is it written third person? And Among Us is written third person. And you said that you've had in your head that your narrator is going to be male, which is great to know from the beginning. So let's talk about the scene that we picked for your audition script. I read through, and I like to pick something from the beginning of the book. That way you can get a flavor for what's the first thing or one of the first things a listener is going to hear when they buy my book. And I went with a scene that is when Marcy is banging on Lou's door. So tell us a little bit more about that scene and how our characters are kind of interacting and who we hear in the scene.
Okay, so that's a scene. It's the morning, and Marcy's on her way to work. She's kind of on a deadline, she's on a timeline, and she really needs to talk to Lou. She saw something last night she needs to talk to him about. And so she's trying to get his attention. She's a little worried he's not going to answer. And he does answer, and she goes in, and they have this conversation, and she's expecting support. She's expecting, like, I can't believe this is awesome, and he doesn't give that to her. And so there's some tension there. And what was really important for me was the characterization of the two of them, the tension, the suspense, and just seeing how, I wanted to hear how a narrator would portray both of their personalities and also that kind of surprise conflict. And there's also kind of a little twist at the end of that. So I was curious, I thought that would be a good one for us to use as well.
Excellent. So I can't wait to go and listen to it. So why don't we head over to the studio and we'll listen to the audition that we got.
That sounds awesome. I'm so excited.
Great.
Kristina and Kat have picked her audition script and filled out her title profile on ACX. Now, we'll peek into the recording booth and meet the ACX producer who'll share how he prepares and records his audition.
Hi, I'm Chris Ciulla, audiobook narrator. I have about 125 credits. I've done 12 books for ACX and 10 for Audible Studios. I've also done some animation and video game work, series like Fallout 4 and Mafia 3. And I'm here to audition for Among Us by Kristina Rienzi. When I'm searching for a book on ACX to audition for, first I will look for books in the genres that I like to record, which are mystery, suspense, thrillers, contemporary drama, and in nonfiction, I like to record sports-related books. So when I'm doing this, I'll look at the title profile, and then I will pull up the audition copy and see, first of all, whether or not it's well written. And if it is, I will look at the characters that are in that copy and see whether or not they're interesting. And then also if it has, if the plot has a hook that is going to pull in listeners, if it's an interesting topic, those are things that are going to pull me as a narrator into the project in order to keep it very interesting. And then I saw, obviously with Kristina's copy, I saw that her copy was very interesting, and the story had a nice hook to it, so I looked forward to reading the audition. Once I decide to audition for a book, I will take that audition copy, and then first I will separate the quotations. When there's dialogue in the script, I will highlight that to make sure from my eye I'll know when that is coming up, so when one character is talking to another. I'll look at the relationship between those characters. I'll see whether or not, if they have something really that connects them, if it's conflict in that scene, that's very important. I'll make sure that I know that is coming in a particular part of it. And it's important to also know the total plot of the book. So the synopsis is important to be able to know if a character is going in a certain direction, if the scene is going in a certain direction, then you can be authentic to that direction of that scene. One of the last things I'll do before I audition is I will look up the author on either their Amazon page or I will look up their social media presence just to see if whether or not we'll vibe together and to make sure that we think the relationship will be appropriate for the book. One of the challenges of performing audition copy is you have a limited amount of information and you want to provide something that is authentic to the script, authentic to the manuscript, and you want it to be good. I think it's great when an author provides, really key information in their synopsis on the title profile to give us the best overview of the script and a little bit of a character breakdown to make sure that we can delve into these characters and really be authentic to what they're looking for on that book.
Answer the door, Lou. Marcy stretched her tightened neck, the birth of a headache looming. Glancing at her phone again, she considered calling to wake him. Time was running out. She needed to see his face, talk to him, tell him everything. She doubled back a few feet onto the walkway and eyeballed the second floor. A light flickered in the room above the kitchen. His bedroom was in the same location as in her house. Every colonial on the block was identical. Shadows crossed in front of his window for an instant. A lightness filled her chest, then released. Back at it. Marcy pressed his doorbell 5 times in a row. She paused. No answer. She pressed it 5 more times. Too bad if the neighbors burst out of their homes screaming. Let them throw rocks at her. She'd call the cops herself. Waiting too long was over. She bounced on her toes for a few more seconds. With her finger ready to push the doorbell another 5 times, the retired Army general's door cracked open an inch. Only the hook and chain separated Marcy from her grumpy but alive neighbor. Lou's shock of perfectly shaved military-style white hair greeted her before his annoyed grunt. Who croaked? He asked with a pinched expression. Better be somebody good. Thank God. We need to talk. Good morning to you, too. He closed the door in her face. The lock changed. The lock clanged. The door unlatched. Marcy pushed past Lou in the foyer of his circa 1970s Center Hall Colonial. Morning. Wrong character. Morning. Coffee's on. He guided her into the kitchen with his buff, yet wrinkled physique. You have a to-go cup for me? Nobody kicked the bucket, did they? Lou pointed to the pantry. Maybe, but nobody we know. He put his extra-large soup bowl-turned mug on the counter. What's got your goat so early? Marcy pulled the wooden bifold pantry doors down. They creaked. She scanned the stocked pantry, and then grabbed a paper cup and plastic lid from the 3rd shelf. You'll never guess what happened last night. I had insomnia again. Lou cleared his throat in an ahem. Marcy turned on her heels. It took a second for his words to sink in. You saw? He gently took the cup from her. Big deal. Big deal? It's proof. Now we can... It won't change anything. Marcy met him at the counter. Telling the world will.
After delivering his best take of the script, Chris will edit, mix, and master his audio and deliver it to Kristina via ACX. Let's rejoin Kristina and Kat, who have just finished listening to his audition.
All right, so Kristina, from what we just heard, I'm actually really happy with this audition script. I think it gives a great sense of the tone of the book and kind of that tension that you were talking about between characters before. What do you think? What did you think of this audition?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was really, well, it was very cool to hear the book read by an actor. It's a lot different than me reading it out loud or even hearing the computer read it out loud. It definitely brings to life the scene and the characters, and you just hear things as a writer that you wouldn't hear otherwise, and you can see just the benefit of all the hard work you put in and how it can come to life in the words. I think Chris did a great job. They definitely captured the tension, the suspense, the emotion, and just of the characters. I know this particular piece was Marcy, but there was another piece that we had listened to, which was Lou, and I think Lou just came so, to me, more vividly to life than I expected.
I
really
the Lou
loved
voice.
it. Yes, me too. And I felt like it was extremely authentic. And Marcy was as well. I just think it just goes to show what how good of an actor he is, and then he's able to kind of bounce between the two. And that's what you want. I mean, you want somebody who can bounce between two completely different characters with motivations that are completely different. And also the way that he had them interacting, there was a lot of tension, and there was a lot of angst and emotion, and you could really feel that. And that is completely different than what I think I've ever gotten from just simply reading a book, and even just reading it out loud. I think it just it brings it to life in such an amazing way. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think he did a great job.
Yeah, we always tell our actors that the main voice of the book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, should really sit comfortably in their register because they're doing it for so long. So if you're going out, when you choose to do your other books on ACX, if you want to go out and look for narrators, you kind of want to find someone whose voice sits right in that tone of the book because it's going to be comfortable for them. And I think for Chris, I think he was a really great choice for this. And I was a little bit hesitant on the male narrator for this one because Marcy is our main character, but I think it works really, really well. And I think he gives Lou a tone it's just right, and it's different enough from Marcy. And something about the way that he does Lou, you talked about that sort of gruffness, and there's the part where you're describing like his military haircut, like it really gives you that visual of Lou between the voice and your descriptive words, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know who Lou is, I know who Marcy is, and hopefully that collaboration between you and the actor really makes both of you feel like you're doing something that is more than what you've started with, and gives people another way and another entry point into your work. So I'm really glad that you're happy with this audition. I love it. I think it's going to be fantastic. So as an author who's a little bit new to producing an audiobook, one of the best things you can do is really educate yourself. I know you're a big listener, which is a huge asset, but for anyone who's not a listener, you can go and listen to samples on Audible. You can listen both in your genre and outside of your genre just to figure out, what do I like? What kind of voices do I like? What resonates with me? And then that will help you filter down to what's going to be right for my book. We have a lot of folks who have amazing voices, but they just might not hit the right tone for your book. And I love that you knew like instinctually from your gut that your narrator for Among Us was going to be a man. And, maybe all of your listening has helped with that, but it's also something instinctive that as an author. So when you go and listen to more voices and listen to different kinds of audiobooks, it'll help you distill that a little bit more, and it'll help you articulate it so that when you get into that audition process, you can tell the difference between this is a great audition and I love this person's voice versus this is the right person for my book.
And that makes sense because I was listening for that suspense thriller feel, and I might not have been able to put it into words, but when I heard it, I knew what I had.
So Kristina, I'm glad you really liked the audition so much. Sometimes there are small things that we want to tweak or something we're expecting to hear a little bit differently. Was there anything like that in the audition piece for you?
Yeah, when I came into this, I thought that the actor would have more of a deeper tone, more of like a darker tone. And although he did the suspense perfectly, I was hoping for a little bit of a darker tone to his voice.
Okay, so the audition stage on ACX is a great place to give those notes and those little bits of feedback so you can work with the actor to make sure that you're getting just what it is you want and that they're hitting the characters right. If there's a character with an accent, maybe you didn't put it on your title detail page, you can tell them during the audition stage, and that way you give them all the tools that they need once you're comfortable moving forward, that they can move on ahead and produce your book, and it's going to sound exactly the way you both want it in the end.
I thought the performance was great. But I'm just wondering what I should be listening for on the technical production side.
So most of our narrators record in home studios, and you want to be listening for what is the actual sound behind what it is you're hearing. Are you hearing any extraneous noises? Or does it sound, sometimes it can sound tinny if they're not recording in a space that's soundproofed enough. It can sound a little bit hollow. So you want to make sure that you are getting a deep, rich tone, especially with, you know, a lovely voice like Chris's. You also want to listen for their editing techniques because our producers are editing all of their work. You want to make sure that there are no flubs, that they didn't mess something up and go, oh shoot, let me go back and redo that and leave it in. You want to make sure that that attention to detail is there from the very beginning. You also want to listen for the pronunciations and accents to make sure that they're right. But on the technical sound side, you just want to make sure that it sounds clean to your ear and that there's enough space kind of given between the phrases and the sentences that you're comfortable with the pacing for your work as well.
Okay, so it sounds like I'm not like giving feedback on every single thing, but I'm over listening in general and just pointing out things that maybe don't sound right or that were missed to give some feedback there.
Right, yeah, and on the technical side, you just want to make sure that it sounds clean and that it's something that you as a listener would be happy to listen to as well. So Kristina, now that we've decided on a narrator for your book, I want to walk you through the next step so that you know what to expect when you're producing your book. So you've cast your narrator, you've come to a rate agreement with them, what you're going to pay them, and then you really get into, or the narrator gets into the nitty-gritty creative process. So what you're going to do is you're going to wait for them to send you the first 15 minutes of your book. They're going to go off, they're going to produce it, they're going to have read the whole book and understand all the characters, the accents, the dialects, the plot twists, anything that's important to kind of the meat of your book. They're going to do all of that research first, and then they're going to come back and produce the first 15 minutes. And this is your chance to really dialogue with them about, you know, are there other characters that weren't included in the audition script that you have heard a certain way or you want a certain tone with them? You want to make sure that the pacing is something that you like and that you're comfortable with. So when they send you that 15 minutes, it's really important that you listen to it and then you're comfortable with all of it. And if you're not, you just have a little bit of dialogue with your narrator. So it's basically like an extended audition for your book, just to make sure everything is super copacetic with how you're going to move forward.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then once you're done with that, this is the part where you as an author are really excited about your book getting done, and you're going to let go of it a little bit and know that you've got a great producer on the other side who's going to take care of your book.
So yeah, I mean, that makes sense, and it's it does feel a little bit difficult to do that as an author because you put so much work into it, and you know you want to kind of have your hands in where it goes from there. But I also recognize that my job is to write the book, and his job is to make it come to life. And you know, part of me, it's like I just have to trust that the narrator is going to do their job and make it the best audiobook that it can be. And you know, I can definitely see like letting go at that point and just letting it become the living, breathing thing that it was meant to be.
That's a great way to put it. And you're talking with your narrator and you've looked at their profile on ACX and maybe you've Googled them because we all Google people this day and age, and you know a little bit more about them. And so it's really a real person that you're trusting with your book. You're not sort of just feeding it into something and then not knowing what's going to come back. You've got that audition and then you've got the first 15 and all the times you've talked with them. And you know, hopefully, and you're really comfortable with the fact that you have chosen someone who is going to baby your book the way that you've babied it and put all the work into it that you've done. And our actors, for their part, are so excited to be able to work with our authors' words, and they're so insistent on getting it just right. You're going to get a great product back, and hopefully it'll be everything that you wanted it to be.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I trust them to do what they're, you know, that they're here to do. Once I get the final audio back, what do I need to be listening for so that I can give appropriate feedback to make sure I'm getting the product that I want in the end?
So you want to listen through the entire book. You want to do an end-to-end check of the whole thing. And you just want to make sure that everything is there and that it flows really nicely. Occasionally, someone who's editing will miss a sentence, or they'll have a misread, or maybe they'll mispronounce something. There are all words that we think we know how they're pronounced, and then we're actually incorrect. I've been doing this 15 years, and I still find words that I don't actually know how they're said. So you just want to listen through the whole thing and make sure that it's feeling good to you, that you're happy with the product. If there are mispronunciations, or maybe if there's a really crucial line that someone didn't get just right, you can go back and ask for a tweak to that. But you want to view the whole thing as one experience and one product, and you want to trust in the kind of the vision and the acting skills of the producer that you've picked. So if there's things that really stand out, you can definitely go back and ask them to make those changes. But for the most part, you should just be listening to make yourself feel great about putting it out there as an author.
Okay, so not the time to make major changes like setting it in a different city or having an accent pop out of nowhere. Like, I can't do that, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I'll be sure not to do that. I'm so glad I was able to come here today and just work with Kat on the whole audiobook process. It really demystified it for me. I was a little overwhelmed coming here today, not sure what to expect, thinking it was going to be a difficult process, but it actually was so easy, and I'm just excited to get started. I feel like the most important thing I learned was that it's a collaboration of artists. It's a collaboration of the author who writes the story and the producer who brings it to life. And as an author, there's nothing better for me than bringing your story to life and being able to experience that from an emotional level. And I think that's the best thing about audiobooks. They create your characters out of your story. They make them real people, and they make the experience real. And it's just it's been an amazing journey, and I'm just so glad I was able to experience this. And Kat was so helpful. And I'm ready to go. I'm ready for the next million books.
I was so excited to have the chance to sit down with Kristina today. Working closely with authors is one of my favorite things about my job. Honestly, I kind of geek out on it a little bit because I am such a bookworm and an audiobook worm that it's really exciting for me to be able to do that and to be able to walk authors through the process so that we can get more stories into audio and out there for our listeners to hear. I think the top 3 things to remember, whether you are brand new to producing audiobooks or you've done a million of them before, is to make sure that you've got a great audition script that really reflects your book and you've got a great title detail page. Make sure when you're listening to auditions, you're picking the right voice for your book, not just somebody that you love, but somebody who's going to really kill it on your specific book. And the third thing that I would remember when you're doing all of this is just to give your producer feedback at the right time to make sure that they have all the tools to make a great book for you that you're happy with in the end.
With Kat's guidance, Kristina now has a good idea of how she'd like her audiobook to sound and how to help her producer make that happen. We hope you do as well, and we thank you for joining us for today's episode. Until next time, make sure to follow ACX on YouTube and visit blog.acx.com for more audiobook production, publishing, and marketing advice.